Okay, today we're going to graph quadratic functions or quadratic equations, and we're going to solve once we have our graph. So this is lesson 100. Just a quick reminder, when we are told to solve, our solutions are the same as roots. Another word for roots or solutions is x-intercepts, and then also zeros. So graphically, we know that our solutions are those x-intercepts where our function value is 0. So just to recap that a little bit, if we're asked to solve, we know we can graph and then find the x-intercepts or those zeros. So there's a couple different scenarios. When we go to graph, there's potential that our parabola will give us 2 zeros. So there's 2 solutions. There's potential that it will just have one solution, so it would just hit the x-intercept or the x-axis one time. And then there's potential that our parabola would never touch the x-axis, meaning that we have no real solutions. So we can have 2 zeros, 1 zero, or no zeros. So if we're given this equation, x squared minus 36, and we're told to solve by graphing, the first thing we would want to do, if you recall from the other day, is find our axis of symmetry. Well, that's that x equals opposite of b over 2a. So for our equation, we don't have a b value. So it would be 0 over 2 times our a value is 1. Well, 0 divided by anything is 0. So we know we would have to come to our table. 0 would be in the middle, and then we'd have 3 points above and 3 points below. We would plug all of these values back into our original equation. So negative 3 squared minus 36, negative 2 squared minus 36, and so on. That gives us that table. When we go to graph, those are really far down on our y-axis. Generally, we don't graph things that are that low. So it looks something like this. I didn't even make all my tick marks. We just know it'd be clear down here at negative 36. Our vertex would be. That's going to take a lot of graph paper. So instead of graphing these by hand, I'm going to give you a little resource. It's called Desmos. So if you go to desmos.com, it will load, and then you have to hit start graphing, and then it will let you type in an equation that you can graph. A lot of my older students download the app. It's a free app, so then they can just have it on their phone and they don't have to have a computer. So we're going to use Desmos to graph this x squared minus 36 and solve that way. So when we go to type in x squared, you're going to type x caret 2. That's a little caret. And to get that little caret, it's above the 6 on the keypad, on the keyboard. So you would type shift 6 to get that caret. Okay. When you do that, it will look something like this. So it's kind of blurry, but that says x squared minus 36. This is what Desmos will look like. It'll give you a place to type, and then it'll give you a graph. So x squared minus 36. When you get your graph, I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. When you get your graph, hold on. Ooh. There we go. When you get your graph, the zeros, remember where it crosses the x-axis. You can click where you think it crosses, and it will auto-populate a little point. Can't really see those points, so I redrew them. It even gives you you can click on your y-intercept, and it tells you that your y-intercept is 0, negative 36. It's also your vertex. So remember, our solutions to this equation are the two x-intercepts. So we would have x equals positive 6 and x equals negative 6, because that's where our graph, our parabola, crosses that x-axis. Here's another one. I want you to solve negative x squared minus 2. Well, again, you can use Desmos. So you type in negative x squared minus 2, and it gives you a graph that looks like this. Our parabola is facing down because, remember, that's negative. So our parabola is facing down. Does it ever cross our x-axis? No. So we would have no solution because we don't have any x-intercepts. Oops, there you go. Same thing. We're going to solve by graphing x squared plus 16 equals 8x. You need to put it in standard form in order to graph. So you'd have to subtract your 8x over to the other side. X squared minus 8x plus 16. Desmos gives you this graph. Here's an example of a quadratic that only has one solution. It only crosses our x-axis one time, or touches our x-axis one time. So these units go over by 1. So there's 5. It's not quite to 5. That x-intercept, or our solution, is at x equals 4. So what I want you guys to do is to graph negative 3x squared plus 5x plus 7 on Desmos, and then solve, meaning give me the two x-intercepts that are graphed. If you need to round, round to a tenth.